Hi everybody and welcome to my studio. This is episode 23 and this is a 52-week journey in my art journal. So I'm quite excited because we are busy dealing with the elements as inspiration for our art journal. And if you've been watching, you would have seen that I've been playing with air and fire, earth, water. This week, however, we are dealing with the element of metal, and that was quite exciting to play with. We are about to wrap up this series, and within the next 2 weeks, I am going to be starting with a whole new focus in my art journal. In fact, I'm hoping to upgrade my journal from an A5 size to maybe A4, maybe A3. It all depends on what my budgets allow, and I'm interested to expand this size that I'm working on simply because I'm very excited about the next half of this 52-week, what do we call this, program. So what I'm busy with, like I said, is wrapping up the elements, and then we're going to start to look at composition. And there is so many inspirations that we can draw from composition, and to play with those in our art journal and to learn what compositions work best or works for us, right? Because remember, there's no right or wrong, there's only a suggestion. So I'm quite excited to delve into the compositional aspect of our art, because that sort of teaches us where to place what things and what things we want to focus on, and how the viewer's eye will flow around the page. So if you're new here, hit that subscribe button, because you definitely don't want to miss the extended series of composition starting in 2 weeks' time. And in the meantime, if you've been wanting to get into a creative practice, there's no better time than now, right? Because I'm right here every Monday afternoon providing you with another hot prompt or an art prompt, depending on how you look at it. Because I believe, as a creatively fit coach, that all of the elements that we use in our art can metaphorically speak to us about the art that is our lives. So I'm interested to hear what you think of all of these metaphors and ideas, and how it sort of can affect the way that you look at your life, and hopefully help you to find that resilience within, or just simply to activate your creative heart and get an art journal, grab a piece of paper and just begin to play and have fun. This is definitely not about perfection. It is really more about the connection and the way that we relate to each other, and the way that we play with our art, and then we have this deep, beautiful realizations within our hearts about the art that is our lives, and how we can influence our decisions and begin to paint a different story in the life that we are experiencing. Because I believe that life is happening for you, not to you. And if this statement is true, then you can really look at your attitude and your perceptions in life, and the way that you talk, and the way whatever you create, it all starts in your mind and within your inner being. And I don't think there's a better way to explore all of our emotions and mental constructs than in your art journal. So without any further ado, let me show you what I've done this week. Let me just peek around the corner here so I can see what I'm showing you. This week is my metal page, and you can see I played with some gold foil. I looked at some coins from the past as inspiration because it's metal, and then all of the mark making that I did on my jelly plate and playing with paint, and my brayer was all about sort of creating a heap of cash. And I used this little robot that I colored in, and I discussed this in the video, because I said, you know, I wish I could have a little robot like this that could print me money. Literally. So anyway, I know that we all want a walking ATM, so wouldn't that be fun? So if you are inspired by the metal element, give me 5 seconds to turn my camera around and I'll show you exactly how I created this page in my art journal. So thanks for watching. I'll see you now. Right, so let's play with our jelly print plate today. And seeing that our theme is metal, I've brought all of my metallic paints here, and we're going to be playing with this today. And I thought of really just being inspired by coins. I got some old materials out from my stash this morning. Let me just get hold of it. As I started to warm up my plate, I played with these old coins of Caesar and of old civilizations, and I've also done a little bit of a monoprint there with some of these interesting imprints that I got going on the plate. I don't always have the patience for monoprinting techniques, because you do need the right sort of materials with you all the time to ensure success, and as you know, a lot of that is just experimental. So I'm going to keep it very simple today, and we're going to play with all of my metallics, and we're going to just make little dots and create beautiful textures and imprints on the plate, and see where that takes us. So let's do interesting combinations. Let's do gold and silver together to start off with. And all you really want to do is just make little imprints or little dots on the plate. And I'm also going to add a little bit of Payne's grey just for some contrast here and there. And first, let's see what that does for us. I'm going to use my brayer, and we're just going to basically pull down, and pull down. I've got some black tissue paper, and the paint is nice and thick on the plate, so this first print should not be difficult. That's an interesting background. It almost looks like trees. We're trying to go for coins or for money here. Oh my goodness, you know, to be creative. Okay, so this is a little bit heavy, so I'm going to just use this spare piece of paper here and just lift some of that extra paint on there. That's cool. And we will overprint on it again. I'm just going to use a piece of paper here just to lift a little bit more of this very wet paint. Oopsie daisy. That's starting to feel better. Okay, so interesting marks. And now we have to just allow this to dry a little bit, and then we can put a layer of paint over it and do a bigger sort of lift of this ghost print that has remained on the plate. So I think I'm going to pause the video so that I can focus on what I'm doing. I can always do a voiceover and explain to you guys what I'm doing. Otherwise, it becomes really complicated to be creative, to respond in the moment to what's happening, in the studio and also to make coherently sense while I'm talking to you guys. I don't want to sound like a blabbing idiot, so I'll be right back. Right, so now I can continue to play. Like I said, I'm using my Montmartre metallic range, and the idea behind today's mark making is to sort of mimic the feeling of um, a heap of coins or a stash of gold coins lying in a cave somewhere, some kind of treasure. And I got this black tissue paper from a local store, but to my demise, the paper is really a very bad quality, or a very poor quality, that's a better word. And most of my tissue papers today tore, so that was rather frustrating, because I'm used to my white tissue paper that's actually a little bit stronger and can take quite a bit. So I'm just going to be playing with my brayer and making little dots, and when you brayer them down, it sort of creates these spheres, and they all lie in a unified direction, and that helps to create that illusion then when we use it in our art journal as a collage paper element. I switched here to some stronger paper, and this is the parts of jelly printing that you can't always show because the hairdryer makes a lot of noise. But if you want to pull all the paint that's on your plate, you'll definitely need a stronger paper. And I've learned, if you really don't pull that tissue paper or paper off immediately after imprinting, then too much of the paint soaks into the page, and then if you pull it and the paper didn't dry, then it can tear. So I've just learned to give it a good second or two, maybe a minute or two, and in my case I use my hairdryer to ensure that the paper itself is completely dry, and this way I know that the paint has adhered to the paper and it will lift from my plate. So I'm just going to continue to play with these little markings and hoping for interesting and beautiful collage elements that I can use in the art journal just now. So thanks for watching. Right, everyone, so now that we've played a little bit with our jelly plate print and we have created some collage papers to play with, I am just going to quickly show you again. I did quite like this. Some of the tissue paper is really thin. I bought this at the party store, and it's definitely not the best quality tissue paper I've ever worked with. It's so thin, you just look at it and it tears. So unfortunately, I discovered that as I'm trying to create material for our art journal entry today. So it's not all a total disaster. I do realize Again, when you buy more quality kind of papers, then your end results will also be better. And then I do like this very lightweight kind of cardstock. It's a bit thinner than the white paper that I've got, because I don't like it when my art journal papers are too thick, because it really becomes a challenge to glue it down and to work with it. Like this white paper of mine is very thick. It's great to clean the plate with, but then you can use sections of that. So, as you gathered, today our theme for, or our creative heart prompt, let me use the correct words, is to play and be inspired by the element of metal. Now this is literally one of those first aid blankets that you get, and I've actually painted on a few paintings, used this in the background, painted on top of it, and that was quite a bit of fun. But yeah, it's not always the best thing because it's so plasticky to stick down. So I might use little bits of it afterwards, because I do want me some metal. Now, one of the things that I was inspired by is old coins that I found in some of these old magazines that deal with antiquity. So I thought metal, money, prosperity, that can definitely be a connection and a theme in our art journal. So I want you to gather your materials and look at maybe using metallic paints as a reference to metal, and create yourself some interesting collage elements. Metallics do show up very nicely on dark paper, black paper, or even dark gray paper. So see what you can create that's interesting, that's going to give you a bit of bling and a bit of contrast, and see what you have in your studio that will relate to metal, and be inspired by the element of metal to create a page in your art journal. So these are the materials I'm going to be playing with. I'm just going to be using ordinary PVA glue and an ordinary glue stick to glue my papers down. And I do have a bit of a scrap newspaper here on the side to just glue on, and I'm using a little bit of a newsprint just to protect my pages. So without any further ado, I'm going to get started, and I will share with you guys some interesting trivia about the element of metal that can also get that brain of yours a little bit working and looking at the element of metal in a new way. So this page that I'm starting on today, I've activated previously with a monoprint and some mark making. There's a little bit of silver glitter in there. So I thought this page is very nice, and it's located right next to the earth page that we did last week. So I thought this will definitely work for the metal page. So let's get started. Right, as I begin to play here in my journal and get these elements together, I decided to share with you a little bit of trivia about the metal element. I literally used Google search, and I'm asking the question, what is the meaning of the metal element? And this is what came up. By definition, a metal element is an element that forms positive ions and has metallic bonds. Very scientific. Most elements can be periodic table or metals. Examples of metal elements include iron, copper, silver, mercury, lead, aluminium, gold, platinum, zinc, nickel, and tin. Sure, that is a mouthful. Let's also see what is the spiritual meaning of the metal element. Metal imbalance, metal people, and I'm one of them. I was born in a metal year, have a great awareness of past, present, and future. That's so interesting. They understand the importance of loss and potential, celebration, acknowledgement, and grief as the remembrance of quality. They are like quality control officers for all of the other elements. Now, I do find myself when I'm in a team situation that I do like to have things fair, and I do expect a high standard from my team members, and that is always a great thing to aim for excellence, isn't it? Right, let's see what else we have here. What is the meaning of metal in the five elements? In Chinese medicine, and in particular, what is commonly referred to as the five elements theory of Wu Ying, the element of metal comes to represent a moving away from the outward yang-like energies of the wood and fire elements that came before it, and the grounded central point of earth. It's really nice to learn all of these interesting things that I never thought of when I think of an element. We can get so stuck on the sort of basic idea about an element. It's so much more. Hey, what is the definition and meaning of metal? Metal, any class of substances characterized by high electrical and thermal conductivity, as well as by malleability. Oh, sorry, that's a big word. Malleability. Forgive my pronunciation. Some of these words are a bit big for me. Ductility and high reflectivity of light. That will all characterize a metal. Let's see what else is here that's interesting. Here's a question. What is the emotion of a metal element? That's interesting. The emotion associated with the metal element is grief, and it influences our ability to feel our grief and to let go. Wow, that is fascinating. I wonder how that connection is made. I'm just intuitively thinking now, when you are grieving, you might be crying a lot, and there's a lot of metal in our tears, in our water. So, yeah, that's very interesting to contemplate an element and that it connects with us in, a griefful moment, and how important it is for us to grieve. So, maybe that's something to reflect on. Is there something that you are grieving, or is there something that you need to grieve? Maybe an end of a relationship, or a change in your life of some sorts. So, yeah, let me know maybe in a comment what you think about this connection with metal and grief. That's very interesting. Right. So, as my page is coming together here, today wasn't one of my easiest combinations of papers, but you know what, in the end, it did come together really nicely. Um, I'm just playing with what I have in front of me and trying not to focus too much on what I think it should look like, and rather just respond in the moment. So I'm just gonna play you some beautiful music now and show you how I bring all of these elements together. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you just now. Right, so I'm keeping this page very simple and playful. I do like the shine of metallics. I went looking into my stash of Japanese paraphernalia, and I came across this little drawing of a robot forgive me. And I just colored it in with some silver and some gold because it's made of metal. And in my little world here, this little robot is a money printer, so almost like a walking ATM. And I pressed a few buttons and then this little drawer is filled with gold. So, you know, one can dream and one can fantasize in your little art journal. For me, it's just a symbol of potential and abundance. So let's play with our little robot. I just stained the paper with a little bit of coffee spray because it is a very white cardstock that this little drawing was made on. I'm just going to put him smack there in the middle. And you know, you can always come back to your page once you found elements that you think will, you know, add to your design or speak more of what it is that you want to say with your art journal. There's no rules really, so this is just where I start, and sometimes as I page through it, something else comes into my you know, supply list, and then you can always add it later. So I'm just going to use my gold jelly roll pen, and I'm just going to add a little bit of a coin like ridge around these old Caesar coins. That's sort of where our money system began in the history. And because metals are durable, it sort of had both the weight in gold, literally, and also the value of the money. Now, don't get me started on the modern digital aspect of money, because our theme isn't money, but you know, sort of came up in this way. So just coins and metals. You can add jewelry, you know, really anything made of metal or inspired by metal, and you can add that to your page, whatever tinkles your fancy, literally. And maybe you like the story. There's isn't there a tin man or something in one of the fairy tales, Alice in Wonderland or something like that? I always turn the stories around. To me, The Wizard of Oz and Alice in Wonderland is sort of the same story. I find it very difficult to separate the two in my mind. So when I start talking about it, I usually mean the other one. So forgive me if I reference the wrong one of the two. But anyway, you get the gist. And yeah, you know, there we have a very simple metallic inspired page in our art journal. To me, it looks like a heap of coins, almost like the coin heap that you will find in some big stash somewhere, maybe of princes or the kingdoms of old that dragons might be safeguarding, you know. So maybe that's another thing you can add, is a dragon. Now that we talk about it, I think I actually do have a sticker of a dragon. And I'm just coloring in some of these white edges with my gray oil pastel, because I find that sometimes, you know, these little white edges that irritate me, and I just want to blend them in a little bit with a color that sort of is found on the page. Like here we can use a little bit of yellow ochre just to continue to quiet down some of these white edges. And speak of gold, speak of metal in some kind of way. There we go. Like I said, there's no right or wrong. It's your page in your art journal. So whatever tickles your fancy, right? This is where we come to play. This is where we come to experiment. This is where we discover new things. Because that is the whole idea behind a prompt, is to have a start-off point for your creative practice that you can make your focus for that session, that leads every decision you make in creating pages or papers, and finding content that will work in that theme, brings it all together. It harmonizes your page, and then there's a central theme that sort of relates and speaks and tells the story of what you are trying to say. And this week we are playing and experimenting and being influenced all by the element of metal. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys are going to do with the element of metal in your creative art journals. We have one more element to play with, and that is the element of wood that we will be doing next week. And I think by then my journal is pretty much full. It's getting a bit too chunky for me, and I am really ready to expand. I really want to see if I can get a multimedia journal and a little bit of a bigger size that will allow me to play more with paint. There's a little bit more space for me to expand and fill the frame of the camera a little bit more, because I do know that some of my followers have asked that I demonstrate a little bit more painting, abstract painting techniques combined with collage and so forth, and I'm really interested in that myself. But I do find this small journal a little bit limiting, playing with wet media like paint. So I need to find a journal that's maybe got a bit of a stronger paperweight so it won't curl up with a lot of paint. So fingers crossed, I'm going to start looking out for that so that we have a bigger journal to play in. But you know what, this little journal has taught me so much about both multimedia, myself, and it's really been a lot of fun to focus in on this little journal and to see where it will take me. So yes, stick around. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button, and if you like the video, please give me a like, and if you've got any questions or things you want to share with me, do drop me a comment. I always love to see what my community is sharing with me. If you want to be part of my community, then join my Facebook group. The links are in the description of this video. That is where I encourage everyone to get into their creative practice, and really all mediums and status is welcome. It really is not limited to art journal. Anything creative goes. So join us over there and be supported, and I'm always eager to see what everyone else is doing in their creative practice. So I want to thank you for watching, for tuning in, and I will see you guys again next week for another episode. So see you guys then. Bye-bye. And there you have it. I like to just use a little bit of oil pastel and do some semantic writing just to bring all of these pages together. And as discussed, I thought the symbol of a dragon might just be very appropriate here. My dragon is sitting on this beautiful treasure, protecting it, and for me it is symbolic of the protection that I intend to protect our income and our finances, seeing that this is the symbology that my mind is dealing with today. So I'm grateful for my abundance and my blessings, my opportunities, and I just believe that we will prosper together. And this is definitely one way to manifest your intentions, is to create it in a form of art. because that's another way to amplify what we feel. So I hope you enjoyed this episode inspired by metal,